All right. Good evening, good morning, good afternoon, friends. How are you doing? Trust you're good. My name is Aiki Zigbana. As you know, I'm your regular host on Take My Hand webinar series. Uh, I've told you before, this webinar is powered by Aiki's Isaac Ibana Foundation. I'm the executive director and also the founder. Yeah, so last week we talked about we defined what trafficking is, human trafficking, trafficking in persons. We defined what it is. We looked at the forms. We looked at the various ways, people can be trafficked and how not to be trafficked. And today, we're going to be looking at uh, the role of stakeholders, you know, the role of stakeholders in trafficking. So let me see your comments coming in. Um, if you're watching, please kindly let me know your thoughts. Keep your comments coming in. Keep your likes. You can also share to people, especially young people, uh, to listen and to watch. So today we're looking at the role of stakeholders. Okay. So please keep your comments coming in. Keep your comments coming in. All right. So, what's the role of stakeholders in combating trafficking in persons? Okay. What's the role of stakeholders? Uh, The role of stakeholders is to one, to prevent, protect, and to prohibit. All right? To prevent, protect, and to prohibit. That's the role of stakeholders in combating trafficking in persons. So, as a stakeholder, like we're an NGO. So, we are part of the stakeholders. Part of what we're meant to be doing is to prevent, you know, to protect, and to also prohibit, to join forces with other relevant stakeholders to prohibit, to prevent, protect, and to prohibit. The three P's, right? So under to prevent, we as a stakeholder, as an NGO, Aiki's Isaac Ibana Foundation, we create awareness, right? Create awareness under prevention. If you don't create awareness, how do people know about the issue? Or how do they identify the issue when they see it, right? So we create awareness on how the issue exists, in what forms it comes, and then how not to fall or how not to be a victim, right? So under protection, we have counseling, we have rehabilitation and reintegration. Okay. So we also partner with relevant bodies, you know, to counsel, rehabilitate, and reintegrate victims that are already in being trafficked. All right. Then prohibition, that's enforcing, the law. There are trafficking laws. There are anti-trafficking. There are trafficking anti-trafficking laws. So to enforce the laws on the offenders, people who offend, who who lure people into trafficking, and who it's an organized crime. So all the people that are in that line of action who work against the trafficking laws, they are offenders. So prohibition deals with you know making sure the victims don't fall to their pranks or don't fall to their gimmicks, and if they already are in the traffic environment, how they are being rescued, and then the offenders are being prosecuted. All right. Prohibition. So prevention, protection, and prohibition. All right. So what are the types of stakeholders? Quickly, I'm going to be going through the types of stakeholders in combating trafficking in persons. If you're just joining in, we're talking about the role of stakeholders in combating trafficking in persons. That's human trafficking. So we have defined what stakeholders are, we've identified them and their roles, right? To prevent, protect, and prohibit, right? prohibit and prosecute. Anyway, so uh, types of stakeholders. What are the types of stakeholders in combating trafficking in persons? All right. So as it stands, let's start with the offenders. Number one category is the offenders. So who are the offenders? These are people who perpetrate, who carry out the trafficking actions themselves. These are individuals. Some may even be family members, right? The law people, like we discussed last week about the forms. Most of these people, they know that people are going through difficulties, right? Financial difficulties. I live in Nigeria at the time now, and the situation of the country is a bit biting to most people financially. Some people could barely afford 2 square meals a day, and some people are working, but um, they walk like elephants and they earn like an ant. That is to say, the take home pay is not commensurate to the efforts that they put in, right? So they are discouraged. They feel like they need a better place. They need greener pastures. They need another job, right? They need something better to take care of their basic needs. That means what they are doing currently cannot afford to take care of their, basic needs. Let's let to say to take care of their luxury and whatever their fantasies are in life. So perpetrators know, they know this, and they take gross advantage of the victims. For instance, someone who places a fake job advert online and tells you they need a receptionist in a barbing salon. I mean, when I give this example, most people were laughing. It's amusing, right? But it's true. You know, you could, in a barbing salon or in a hairdressing salon, or in a little establishment, someone is telling you they're going to pay you 150K for just being a receptionist. Are you serious? In a barbing salon, and then you're excited, super excited. They make everything look real. They show you pictures, and then you jump right in, give your personal information, very vital information. You just jump right into it without making your findings and having factual evidence, as to whether the job is genuine or real. And because of the situation that the person, the so-called prospective victim, is going through, you find out that they're just easily vulnerable, and they fall to this, deceit. At the end of the day, just finding out that it wasn't what it was, you know, as it were. So now, uh, perpetrators, offenders, this is actually an organized crime. They have an organized setup, from the person who makes the post or person who makes the call to the person who receives at the other end the promise of a job or a promise of a better life, or some may even come in form of relationship. As a lady, a guy can post to be doing so well, as it were, they say a man of big things, a man of super stuff. They send you gifts, exotic gifts and expensive gifts, to captivate your heart and your mind. But the goal is the removal of organ. What they are targeting is not, they are not really concerned about you. They are concerned about the body parts they're going to remove for their personal and selfish gain, right? And as a young man, a lady can also, entice you, show you all the good looks, lavish you with gifts and make you feel that you're loved. Yeah. And at the end of the day, they lure you into places and stuff where you're going to be taken advantage of, ripped off of your body parts, or being taken advantage where they could, harm you or do, put you in slavery or something, So one needs to be very, very careful. One needs to be very, very careful. You need to, uh, as a wise man said, nothing is ever what it seems, right? Don't just jump into opportunities in the name of greener pasture. You just see an opportunity. Oh man, you jump on it because you're going through hardship, because you're going through challenges. Come on, you're more than that. So those are the first sort of people on the list of stakeholders, the offenders. All right. offenders. These are the people that perpetrate or carry out the actual trafficking. They lure victims, potential victims, because of their greed. Some people are actually doing a bit well. They could feed, they could, you know, meet up with their basic needs of life, but they want more, and this tends, tends to make them greedy. They are greedy. You know, you have too good to be true offers, and then you're jumping. Someone is telling you, man, well, we're going to take you to a foreign country. All you need to do, you need to pay just a little amount of money for your processing and all. At the end of the day, you pay that money, and then the money's gone. Yeah, imagine them collecting that from, 100 people. That's good fortune, man. So, and also, some actually take you to the places. They told you were going to be a hotel or a bar attendant just for you to get there. And for ladies, they start introducing you to different men, and it's out of your will, but they force you to do it. And as a young man, they start introducing you to hard work, to slavery, you know, mining, all manner of hard labor work jobs, and they make you to do it out of your will. That's what we're saying. You do it out of your will, you know. So, number two on my list of stakeholders is the victims. All right, the victims are the gullible people that are gullible, the people that I spoke about, individuals, men, women, boys, girls, children, right? That are being deceived. They are gullible, so they are being deceived out of ignorance. It may be out of greed. It may be out of hardship. All right. I repeat again. This set of people, the victims, the things that causes them to fall into the traps of the offenders is, for some, is out of greed. For some, is out of hardship. For some, is out of ignorance. They are naive. They don't really know how these things are done. They don't know it's an organized crime. From the person that is going to call them, for instance, I gave an example last week. I said a brother could call another brother, hey brother, please could you give your little daughter or son or a teenager to come stay with me? Don't worry, I'm going to take care about the school fees. I'm going to take care of the feeding, the accommodation, and everything that the child basic needs and all. So accommodation is settled, school fees, I'm going to take care of that. I'm going to put the child into a skill acquisition program. They're going to learn skills. So you don't need to worry. And of course, this is family. So the brother may say, okay, fine. Since you're my brother, I trust you. We're the same blood. Yeah, we're blood. All right. So at the end of the day, the other person takes the child or the so-called teenager from the brother, and the child starts seeing all manner of maltreatment from either the world or the caretaker or whoever is around, probably from a husband or from the wife, depending on the position. Now, and as the case may be, they go through tough times. They beat the hell out of them. They don't give them food. They starve them. The school fees, they said they will pay. The children are out of school, no skill, nothing. Children are frustrated. At times they run out of the house, even at midnight. All efforts are to live. No human being want to be subjected to pain and torture, right? Because when you do that, they are being forced to to be liberated. They are going to fight for their freedom, right? And in fighting for their freedom, this is where these traffickers and offenders really bring out their true colors. They use force. They now use force. At the first, they use coercion. They manipulate the mental thinking of these potential victims. They lure you. They make it soft, and then you don't think, man, it's nothing. But when you get into it, they now use force. Now they are using force. They beat the hell out of the child or the so-called victim. They treat you badly. They keep you under stringent, conditions. They lock you up. They restrict your movement and freedom. Those are the signs, right? So the victims, the gullible, and the number three category of stakeholders is the antibodies. Who are the antibodies? The government. All right, the government um, and policymakers, law enforcement agency, all right, businesses. So the government has set up parastatals and bodies that are specifically uh, targeted or meant to handle this particular issue of human trafficking. In Nigeria, for instance, NAPTIP, right? NAPTIP is the official body to handle trafficking matters, right? They focus on protection, prevention, prohibition, and prosecution, right? So uh, they are the official body, and then other private organizations like Whatclef, all right, Whatclef, you know, Devatop, all manner of organizations targeted, against trafficking. These are instruments, antibodies that are being well crafted for, against trafficking in persons, right? So they create awareness, they help victims, they create awareness in terms of prevention. uh, they have a lot of materials, they have a lot of seminars, they have a lot of word of mouth, they have a lot of, they pass the message across. They do jingles, they do adverts, they go online, they talk about it. Uh, Protection, they provide counseling, rehabilitation, and reintegration, for victims. Prosecution and prohibition, they enforce, the laws, the trafficking laws, and they punish offenders, right? So this all of this fall under antibodies, right? Which is the government, right? Government has set up most of these organization, and the most pivot organization, which is the NAPTIP. All right. So the second antibody is the NGO, right? The NGOs. We as an NGO, IKEA's Isaac Ibana Foundation, we're part of the antibodies, right? We're part of the antibodies. Policymakers, that's the National Assembly and all of that, House of Reps and all the people that make laws, as regards to human rights, violation of human rights, and the laws and punishable offenses that may apply, as it were, in this case of human trafficking. All right, so you have law enforcement agencies, yeah, like the police force, like the military, like the mobile police force, and the rest of them. They are specifically enacted, right, by the government to help prosecute, arrest, these violators and offenders, right? So these are instruments specifically set up by the government. They are part of the antibodies that specifically are, are planted there to curb this madness called human trafficking, right? Trafficking in persons under the prevention, prosecution, protection, and prohibition laws, right? Okay, so there are under this category of antibodies, you also have businesses. There are some businesses that will tell you they give preferences. For instance, some businesses will give preference to female staff or female workers. Why? Because most times in our society, they are the most taken advantage of. There are people, a gender that is delicate and sometimes can be a bit gullible, and then sometimes can face some hardship, or some of them lack the willpower. So therefore, these offenders know that, and they use that as an advantage and a tool against them. So some businesses give preferences to gender, especially for the female gender. They give them more advantage, so that in that way, that will avoid that will save them from violation and and being taken advantage of, right? So that's where businesses come in. So we talked about antibodies. Where if you're just joining us, I see Ase Shekaro. Thank you, bro, for joining. Thank you for joining. Please leave your comments and let us know what you think about this webinar. Thank you for joining. So, all right. So we'll be talking about types of stakeholders. We started today about the role of stakeholders in combating trafficking in persons, and we're talking about, we said, the mediate in prevention, protection, prohibition, and prosecution. All right, so now we're talking about types of stakeholders. We have talked about the offenders, which are the prosecutors, the perpetrators, I beg your pardon. the individuals, and some of them could be family members. We've talked about the victims, that's the gullible, the potential people who can be trafficked. Now we are on antibodies. So we are talking about the government, NGOs, policymakers, law enforcement, and then the businesses, right? So let's go quickly into the stakeholder roles, right? The roles in which each of these people play, right? So let's start with the offenders. These people serve as the catalyst for human trafficking. Offenders, all right? The people who carry out the actual trafficking, they serve as the catalyst, all right? They're the catalyst for human trafficking. Okay, so the spearhead, I've told you before, is a chain of network. This is an organized crime. Actually, they make sure, from the person placing the first call or placing the advert for a job, or luring people for better opportunities abroad and all, to the person who's going to receive the victim, and then to the final person who is going to make use of the victim, as it were, for the purpose by which they plan to use the victim in gains. So the offenders, they serve as the catalyst for human trafficking. Second is the family. Very, very important. Now, I need everyone, young people, middle age, and adults, young adults, please listen to this very carefully, right? The family plays a very vital role in the lives of anyone. For instance, according to the NHRC study, it shows that several traffic victims have had difficult family life as children. They've had difficult family life as children. How? This is as a result of broken homes, careless parenting, all right? Careless parenting, broken homes. In one moment, the parents of a child are not together. The child has to grow up, with the mom or the dad, as the case may be, and you find imbalance, in their emotions, in their attitudes, in what they perceive as life. Nobody really shows them love. Okay, the single parent is trying to make ends meet in order to cater for the child, and as such, they don't have time actually to know what the child is going through, how the child feels, who the child associates with, and what they are actually learning from their association. So it's very, very tricky. The family, it starts from there. And these traffickers and offenders know. So once they see potential victims who are in yearn, who are looking for attention, who are looking for acceptance, who are looking for, people who are looking for someone who's going to keep them company, appreciate them, appeal to their emotional needs, give them counsel. And some of these counsel are wrong counsel. They take them into wrong company. You lead them for one thing leads to another. They begin to do things that they never bargained for. They begin to enter places they never ordinarily wouldn't have entered. So very important. As a parent, parents, listen to this. As a parent, do everything you can to keep your family together. Hey guys, man, do everything possible to keep your family together. That's all you have, man. That's all you have. Believe me. You ladies, women, bring your head down. Calm down. That's all you have in this world. As building a life with someone, or with people, a group of people, your husband, your children, is the most important thing. That's the way that child is going to grow up feeling love. So you show them love, show them care, show them affection, give them attention, listen to them, watch and observe carefully. The things they do, the things they watch, who they associate with. You don't need to be hostile in that, as it were. You just need to be, polite and also decisive. Be very decisive in your bringing up your children, right? I'm not yet a parent, but I'm just saying there's a way to communicate with everyone. Every human being deserves respect. They deserve to be understood and to be listened to. So if you apply this to a very large extent, do not think, please, parents, do not make this mistake, or words. Do not make this mistake of thinking a child is too young to understand. No, that's not the case. It's not true. You may be shocked. Some of the things they know that you never taught them. So communicate effectively with them, seek to understand them, and then guide them properly. Sometimes you may need to spank, but the spanking is not, it's just one aspect of it. You just need to be very decisive and to be very calculative in operating with children. And one thing that I've learned over time, with children, it is not do as I say, it is do as I do, right? So you have to be the example, right? You have to lead the way. Make sure you are showing them the right example of what and how exactly you want them to live. For instance, for the family or in the home, as the man, you need to show your wife love and affection. That's how the child is going to, when once the child knows that, oh man, my daddy loves my mommy, it starts from there. And as a woman, you have to love and respect your man, your husband, and since he's the head, according to the Bible, you need to accord him that respect. And of course, there has to be mutual respect, both from the man and the woman, not just from the woman alone. But when once it's mutual, this doesn't mean there won't be issues, but when there are issues, please, I would advise that you don't settle your issues in front of your children. So you sort yourselves out of their sight. All I'm saying is make sure you give the child a good example to follow. That's where I begin with, and then pay attention to who they relate with, and for it. So for the family, so many people who have been trafficked, they've been people that have been vulnerable, vulnerable from lack of love, lack of attention, lack of affection, lack of care, poor parenting, like I've said. All right, so I've talked about the offenders, I've talked about the family. Now I'm talking about the law enforcement, okay, under stakeholder roles, okay. So law enforcement, which is the government as the main policy maker. The government is the main policy maker here. So the law enforcement, what do they do? What's their role? They are into prevention of crimes. All right, they prevent crimes, they detect the crime, and they prosecute offenders. All right, prosecute offenders. So law enforcement agencies like the police force, the mobile force, the military, and the rest of them. So they work with the government, or under the government rather, in partnership with relevant stakeholders like NAPTIP, like mentioned before. NAPTIP is the mother body in Nigeria that is meant to handle trafficking. Okay, so and then private organizations like WordClef, United Nations, as a collective body, they also fight against this, and they are also law enforcement. So they prevent crimes, they detect the crime from the early stages, if reported or if using intelligence, So they so I was talking about law enforcement. Yeah, so they prevent crimes, they detect it at early stage, and they prosecute offenders. All right, they detect, they prevent, and then they prosecute. Okay, in partnership with relevant bodies. So I'm going to go to the fourth category, the fourth stakeholders and their role, the counselors. What is the job of the counselors? They help the traffic person to move on, out of the trauma and not relive in it. They help the trafficked victim. What are we saying? As a counselor, counselors help speak and talk out this trauma, pictures, images, memories of a trafficked person. They talk them out of it. They help them. They resuscitate them. They bring them out of that condition, mind condition, and mental as distress. They bring them out and help them to stand on their feet emotionally. Try to balance their emotions. Try to make them happy, and they try to make them be their own boss. They decide what they want to do with their time and their life, of course, and they make them, come out of sadness into happiness, give them joy, engage them in activities that could lighten up their moods, and the most important thing, speak to their mind and their subconscious, right? Because the pain, the agony, and stress, and memories of the bad, the hardship, the restrictions, and the torture they have been through, through with the offenders has really affected their mental state. So the job of a counselor, they resuscitate them mentally, and bring them out of it. They relieve them of the trauma, all right, and help them not to go back to that same feeling and trauma. All right. So under stakeholder roles, we have looked at the offenders, we have looked at the family, we looked at the law enforcement, we have looked at the counselors. Right. So let's look at the next one: medical professionals. Right. They provide medical care and attention, and also tremendous mental relief to a trafficked person. They provide medical care. For instance, if the trafficked individual or victim was brutalized, like they were injured, they were have beaten to a point they have wounds, or they walked and then they incurred a disease, or due to poor hygiene state, or the environment where they live and all of such stuff. The medical professionals help aid in providing that medical care attention. Some of them could go blind. I know of a case where a particular individual victim was brutalized and lost his eye, almost losing his eye, I mean to say. And thank God for the antibodies and the law enforcement. It was detected, it was reported, so they took it up, and then the person was rescued. And in the process of rehabilitation and reintegration, the medical professionals came in and they were able to resuscitate the eye. And of course, the victim has regained full sight, as it were. So they provide medical care. That's the medical professionals. They provide medical care, attention, and tremendous mental relief to a trafficked person. What treatment does to a mentally uh, degraded victim is it gives them hope, it gives them assurance of life again, it gives them assurance of love. When you're being treated, you're not the one paying, you are seeing yourself being healed of what you thought. For instance, that victim that had an eye damage, possibly he was thinking, oh, so this how my eye is going to end up. Am I going to go blind in one eye? So those possible thoughts and worries are taken up by the medical team when it comes to physical brutalization and then physical assault. Yeah. So that's it for medical professionals. I'm going to talk about the next set of people quickly. Please, if you're watching, please kindly send in your messages, type in your comments, and share to friends to watch, and let me know what you think, and let me know if you're getting value from this webinar. Okay, let's move on. So the next category under stakeholder roles is the pre and post care providers, right? Pre and post care providers, the NGOs primarily, which is where we fall in. IKEA is Isaac Igbana Foundation. We fall under that category, all right? Pre and post. So for the pre, we run uh, awareness campaigns, seminars and webinars like this, like what I'm doing now. I'm actually sensitizing you, I'm actually informing you, I'm actually opening your eyes, feeding you with information that relevant information that can help you not to be trafficked, right? That's for the pre aspect. And then the post aspect, when we get such cases and we detect or we get reports from people, well-meaning citizens, uh, of a traffic case, we take it up and hand the case over to the relevant stakeholders who are going to take care of it, both from the reintegration, the rehabilitation, the prosecution, and all of that, right? So that's the pre and the post. So we provide awareness and campaigns, opportunities to move on to a life of dignity and respect. So part of what we do, apart from campaigning and creating awareness, we provide opportunities, for the victim to move on to a life of dignity, all right, and respect, by empowering the trafficked person with skills and jobs, skill acquisition and job, so that this can prevent exploitation and violation. Skills acquisition, we run skills acquisition programs, to enable these people to learn a skill, they don't have a skill, and to empower them, support them to be gainfully employed in jobs that pay them. As such, they will not be in hardship, they will not be vulnerable, they will not be desperate in search for greener pastures, as it were, So that's it. I'm going to go over what we do as an NGO later on after this points, and I'll tell you what we do under this pre and post care as a pre and post care provider. I mean to say, as an NGO. So the last group of people I'm going to be talking about is the community. All right. So a strong and well networked and organic community will not allow the citizens or her citizens to be victims of trafficking, right? Or to be violated. I see a situation whereby these days where you see someone shouting in the car, help me, help me, help me, or you see someone, you walk into a restaurant and you see someone that is very moody, quiet, the face is not smiling, they are serving, you see them with bruises, you see them, they look inhuman, you see inhuman treatment going on, and what people do, they use their phones they make videos of such things, and they laugh about it, all right, they post it. Nobody cares to investigate or to make further findings or to interrogate or have conversation with such people, to know if they are okay, to know if they are being, their fundamental human rights are being violated. Everybody just look at the surface, they make fun of it, they make videos and they do stuff, crazy stuff. They can't help. That's not right. So as a community does not refer, in this case, does not just refers to a locality. It refers to the people or the association of people around a particular individual, right? So when someone is in the midst of friends or in the midst of people who see them day to day, do some activity, routine activities, they go to work, they do stuff, and sometimes these people could notice strange activities or strange behaviors from these people who are victims of trafficking. Victims of trafficking are usually not free to speak with people. You may ask them questions and they may be shy because the offenders have warned them strongly. If you ever, tell anyone, we're going to kill you. If you ever mention it to anyone, we're going to kill you. We're going to do this, we're going to do that, we're going to do that. So they are actually afraid. They're usually afraid. So they don't like sharing. It takes gradual conversation and interrogation, and with smartness for you to be able to get or detect that someone is being trafficked. So the next time you see someone being moody, change in behavior, you see them, they are not themselves, they are not happy perpetually, you may want to find out what's going on, right? They may be trafficking, they may be trafficked, I mean to say. All right, so let me just do a quick recap. Please, I need your comments. Keep dropping the comments. Keep sharing. Keep liking. So that the video can reach a lot of young people who need to hear this. Okay, so today we looked at the role of stakeholders in combating trafficking in persons, right? So we said what's the role of stakeholders to mediate in prevention, protection, prosecution, and prohibition. All right. So under prevention, we talked about awareness. Under protection, we talked about counseling, rehabilitation, and reintegration. Under prohibition and prescription, we talked about law, enforcing the trafficking laws and punishing, the offenders. We talked about types of stakeholders. What are the types of stakeholders? We talked about the offenders. We talked about the victims. Talked about the antibodies. So we have moved on to talk about the stakeholder roles, right? So we talked about the offender. We've talked about the family. We've talked about the law enforcement. We've talked about the counselors. We've talked about the medical professionals. We've talked about the pre and post care providers. And lastly, we just discussed about the community. So let me know your comments. Let me know if you're getting value in this webinar. And please share it. Okay, so quickly, I'm going to take a rundown of IKE's Isaac Ibana Foundation again, under the pre and post care provider. So we are an NGO, and we fall under the category of the pre and post care provider. So what do we do? So IKE's Isaac Ibano Foundation is concerned about alleviating unemployment and empowering people for a better living. Okay, that's our vision. Our vision is to alleviate unemployment and empower people for a better living. We believe that this will drastically reduce the level of vulnerability and further inform people to equip them on further, emergence and traces of trafficking when they see any signs or early signs, right? So our aims and objectives. Okay? I've talked about the vision. Please let me run through our mission. So we want to reach out to the less privileged through effective empowerment and impactful music. Why music? Yeah, reaching out through the less privileged with through effective empowerment. That's the skill acquisition I told you about. Empowering people, giving them a job, making sure they are self-employed, so they are not violated, in any way. And impactful music. Why music? Music is a universal language, and then it creates attention. Some of these people may not actually have the time to listen to all the grammar I'm speaking right now. Hello? Yeah, but once we play good music, inspirational music, they excuse me, they we have their attention. They will listen, they will enjoy the music, and then we are able to pass on our message, right? So it's a kind of tool, right? That's our vision. So for our aims and objectives, to champion the fight against trafficking in persons, that's TIP, partnering with relevant stakeholders, like what I'm doing now, so to champion the fight against trafficking in persons, partnering with relevant bodies like NAPTIP. Yeah, we've been partnering with NAPTIP for a while now in doing some of these webinars, seminars, workshops, music concerts, and talks, right? All right, so that's number one. Two, educating people and all attendees of awareness and advocacy seminars on how not to be trafficked, right? Like what I'm doing now. This is a webinar meant to educate you on how not to be trafficked, all right? Yeah, so the third thing, our third aims and objective, introduction of victims to handlers for the purpose of sustained counseling training, reintegration, and rehabilitation, all right? So we get some of these cases, we get calls in, and then we hand them over to our relevant stakeholders like NAPTIP, who are going to do investigations, who are going to prosecute, who are going to rehabilitate the victim and restore them to their normal life and reintegrate them back into the society, right? So the last thing on our aims and objectives, the last point is to create means of livelihood. That's self-employment, like I said earlier, to humanity. All right. So what are our core values? We have core values. There's a reason I'm doing what I'm doing. This is not to entice anyone with words. This is not to prove any point. This is not to gain attention or to gain fame or to put my face out there. I'm doing it because of a passion. What is it about? My core values. What are our core values? We believe that every human being is a great potential, right? Every human being is a great potential, all right? Do not look down on anyone. The second thing on our core values is every man or woman carries power for great change. Like I said, do not underestimate the potential or the ability of any human being, no matter how little, right? So the third thing is a life you save today may save you tomorrow. Remember, a tree doesn't make a forest, right? So you may think you're doing someone a favor, not knowing that tomorrow the same person may be the one to liberate and save you from anything as it were, as the condition may be. Who knows, right? So our core values, we believe that every human being, is a great potential, right? We also believe that every man or woman carries power for great change. We also believe that a life you save today may save you tomorrow. Okay. So we earlier defined human trafficking. I'm not going to go into that. Last week, please go back to the last week webinar and listen to the definitions, the forms, and all. So right, we're looking at the next thing. What are our focus areas? What does Isaac Igbana focuses on as an NGO, as a pre and post care provider? Excuse me. What do we do? Where do we focus on? Our first focus is combating child labor, trafficking, and abuse to foster education. All right, we are focusing on combating child labor, trafficking in persons, and abuse, maybe domestic abuse or whatever, to foster education, especially for girl child education. Number two, youth empowerment. All right, youth empowerment and capacity building. As youths, a lot of youth in this generation needs to be enlightened, and really they need a lot to learn. The reason is because social media has provided a lot of options and has replaced study, has replaced quest for information and quest for knowledge. A lot of youths do not read books anymore. Most people read social media comments and engage in that, and that's all. That's it. Every day they do that, and they're okay. They don't want to read a book that is going to give them insight or foresight as to what the next phase of their life should be or should look like. All right. So youth empowerment, capacity building, combating illiteracy, peer pressure, and to also enhance self-discovery. For instance, a youth or a teenager who is just graduating from the secondary school, or thinking, I'm going to be a lawyer, I'm going to be a doctor, I'm going to be a banker, I'm going to be an engineer, I'm going to be or whatnot, I want to be a musician, blindly without knowledge. They don't actually know. They don't have a guide. They don't have a clear sense of direction of where they're what they're meant to be doing or what they should actually study. And sometimes parents could also be part of the problem. Some parents don't want to know what the child's natural abilities are. They just want the child to do what or to fulfill their own self-made quest. For instance, a man who wanted to be a doctor but never achieved it, just want the child, or one of the child must be a doctor or a lawyer, or as the case may be. That's not correct. You need to discover who the child is. You need to know what natural abilities, what the child is passionate about, and then channel them and guide them. So we do such. We guide young people. We build capacity for them, and we empower them with the right knowledge. We give them the right literacy, and we help them through their peer pressure phase, and then also help them discover themselves and who they should actually be or what they should be doing. Number third thing on our focus area is poverty alleviation through strategic self-empowerment, right? Self-empowerment and employment. For instance, we help youngsters who want to do music. You learn music production, you learn how to sing, you learn musical instruments, and you follow your passion. If that's actually your passion, and you pursue it, and we train you in that, or make sure you're gainfully employed. So that's one of the areas. We also help in other skills like media, communications, graphic designs, video editing, and the rest of it. So we also help in other areas like making of beats, soap making, polish, all manner of cloth making, tailoring, and all. So these are basic skills that are going to help you to earn money on a day-to-day. These are basic life needs, right? So with that, you're going to be self-employed and self-dependent, right? So you will not be. It reduces the chances of being vulnerable to some of those so good to be true opportunities out there. So the fourth in our focus areas is campaign advocacy enlightenment, right? So part of what I'm doing now is under campaign advocacy and enlightenment. Campaign advocacy and enlightenment, right? I'm doing a webinar right now. You're watching as part of it, right? So we do that through music concerts, seminars, workshops, skill acquisition programs, and webinars like this one. All right, so the last thing on my list on our focus areas is community development, where we've been privileged to partner with other organizations to provide water to hard-hit communities who needed the water. For instance, we partner with Yes to Life, led by my very good friend, Amy Abraham. He's a music artist, Oliver, Dominic, and a lot of friends. We came together and decided to do that, and we are still doing a lot of projects with other organizations, right? We've had seminars in collaboration with NAPTIP, Devatop, Wordclef, and a lot of other organizations, and we are still in that business. Community development. We have gone to communities where we've provided this enlightenment and advocacy seminars and workshops, and provided some basic needs of the community, and we further enlighten them on how not to be trafficked. So We are still in that business and we'll keep doing it. Thank you so much. So, what are we actually doing now currently? We are taking action together with government of nations, resource persons, relevant stakeholders, to raise awareness and enlightenment campaigns against trafficking in persons through music tours, short films, posters, social media, like what I'm doing now, seminars, workshops, webinars, and public communication mediums, right? So what can you do as a stakeholder, as a citizen of any country? Your part of your major role, in development of that country is to be responsible for the kind of development you want to see. So what do you want to say? So report all suspected trafficking activities around you to relevant authorities. You can call us and we are going to call the people that will take it over. So you can help educate others about its causes, prevention, and effects. You should not participate, all right? Do not participate in any suspected activities of trafficking. So you can work with us as an ambassador of IKEA's Isaac Igbana Foundation against trafficking, all right? So these are the basic briefs. So on Facebook, IKEA's Isaac Igbana Foundation. On Twitter, at III Foundation. All right. On YouTube, III Foundation. So you can reach us through this medium. And then I'm going to leave a link to our email in case you want to reach out or you want to reach out to me. You can send a message. Thank you so much, friends, ladies and gentlemen, around the world for participating and listening. Thank you so much, Mr. Ise, for staying put. I appreciate you, sir. So this comes to the end of this webinar today, the role of stakeholders in combating trafficking in persons. So my name is Ikes Igbana, like I said. This webinar is brought to you by Ikes Isaac Igbana Foundation. So I'm going to see you next week. Keep safe and be good, all right? Do not be a victim of trafficking, okay? Be wise. Thank you so much. See you again next week. Same time, 6:30 GMT. All right, 6:30 p.m. All right. Signing out.